Inspired by the life of the savvy and ambitious Colombian businesswoman Griselda Blanco comes a new Netflix original limited series. Griselda tells the story of a devoted mother who, with her lethal blend of charm and relentless savagery, creates one of the most powerful cartels in history. Witness Sofia Vergara's captivating transformation into the godmother of the underworld. Griselda, now streaming only on Netflix.
Listen to the 48 Hours podcast for shocking murder cases and compelling real-life dramas from one of television's most watched true crime shows. Go behind the scenes of each episode with award-winning CBS News correspondents and producers in Postmortem, a weekly deep dive. Listen to 48 Hours wherever you get your podcasts.
Bernigan, 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 ABCs. Welcome to the Bare Naked ABCs, where I mess up the beginning line right from the very beginning as I try to talk about what I talk about every single
Tracy,
week.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
How's the level? Okay.
Thank you, Aaron. Got me right off the bat. I don't even have to do the intro this week. Because, yes, this week we're going to discuss the song How's the Level off from the tape Buck Naked. I would have asked you, Aaron, but it was very obvious this week what it was off from. I mean,
yeah, I kind of had to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah. So this week, yes, we're discussing the last song off the Buck Naked tape, which for people who don't know, I'm going to break down real quick what the Buck Naked tape is. It was the first tape made by the Bare Naked Ladies. It was recorded on a 4-track recorder. The tapes were given mostly to their friends and sold by the band off the stage. They made it in order to get first noticed by the college radio stations. One of them was actually sold last year online in an auction for $500. So it goes well. Now, that was not a first edition. So one of the things you needed to understand about this tape was there's 4 different editions of this tape. The first edition only had 5 songs on it. So the first edition, which was made in the fall of 1988, had Roadrunner, Only You, which later was called Lilac Girl, Night Photographs, Wishing Well, and then Really Don't Know. And then the second side of that tape were mostly songs from the Police's 1980 album, Zenyatta Mondatta. Now, I don't know if that was Bare Naked Ladies covering the Police, or if that was just like, we have to fill the other side, so let's cover it fill it with this other band that we have.
Well, they had a Talking Head song in there, too.
They did, but not on the first edition of this.
Oh, I got you. I was wondering what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So I don't know, because we never hear them covering any of the Police songs, ever. And I would think that would make it into their rotation if they covered it for the first side of their first edition, or second side of their first edition. But they don't. So my guess is they were just like, we're out of room, or we have all this extra space on side 2. Let's just throw this on there and people get an extra bonus for it.
That was the Police album they picked then too? Not like
wow.
Sing or
This is interesting, guys. This is a weird fact. My band, The Second Child, when we were in college, we were playing a lot of bars and stuff. And the bar scene, I don't know if you guys know this, but in central Maine, down in southern Maine and Portland, they're a little more amenable to originals. But in Augusta, they just want to hear you play stuff that they know. So we were all originals. And at some point, someone was like, maybe we should learn some covers. And we were all, we were in college. We were going to music school, and we were all a little bit pretentious. So we're like, all right, well, we're going to pick covers that no one even knows what they are. So I think it was my bass player at the time, Stu, who said, okay, we should play Behind My Camel by The Police, which is off that album.
Mhm.
It's an instrumental song. It's really dark and weird and cool, and it was a lot of fun to play. But yeah, we actually played that song back in the day. So I
Wow.
also heard the song from that album, Zenyatta Mandata.
That's on their demo tape.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
There we go.
So that I'll come up with more of this later on. But so this was the song that finished off. The song that we're covering tonight is the song that finished off the second, third, and fourth edition of the tape. It was not on the first edition of the Buck Naked tape. We'll go into more of it later on. Let's get into this specific song. How's the level?
How's the level? Okay.
Aaron, will you break down the song for us?
I would love to, Trace. Might I add that I wish all songs were this easy for me to analyze. Let's break it down. How is the Level was recorded at approximately 150 beats per minute. It is in the key of C major, presumably. The chords go from E minor to F to D minor to C. So assuming C major, we have 3, 4, 2, 1. There's not a lot to talk about here. Ed plays the 4 chords in rapid succession. I guess you could say he's playing with a sort of folk strumming pattern very, very rapidly. The strumming pattern actually reminds me a lot of a musician called Wally Pleasant. I would not be surprised if most people had not heard of Wally Pleasant, but I really like his work. It's silly and fun. I first heard him on the Dr. Demento show, must have been back in the very late 90s. So I will send you guys a link for Bad Haircut by Wally Pleasant if you want to listen to this at some point here. Let's see if I can get to the chat. Where's the chat?
Not shaving a haircut. Bad haircut.
No, Bad Haircut by
Bad
Wally
haircut.
Pleasant.
But also not Bad Hair Day by Weird Al
No.
Yankovic.
No, but
Or
I
running
wonder.
with scissors.
Yeah, Weird Al also got his start on Dr. Demento, so there's the link there.
As did I, by the way.
That's right.
Gotta love Dr. Demento. Okay, I'm gonna put it in
Now
the chat
you
here.
said that this was easy to cover. Why was it so easy, Aaron?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Tracy. The lyrics are very deep. I feel as though Ed is asking us an enigmatic question. How's the level? What could it mean? Truly, it could be an unsolvable riddle, like, Kenneth, what is the frequency, right? Who knows what he's really trying to say here? Okay, obviously, this is a sound check, and they threw it in at the end, because why not? It's a little quirky and very early BNL. I guess I kind of like it as an artifact, but I'm not sure I can call it a song.
A
And that's
ditty? A
my
tune?
analysis.
Well, so I do want to correct one thing you said. It's
Oh, yeah.
Steve.
Oh, is it Steve?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
I
it's
thought it was
it's
that
Steve saying, "How's the level?" And then he finishes it off with, "Okay."
point. Okay, yeah. That's
Well, that
right.
actually
I
changes the
missed
whole dynamic
okay,
of the
that's
song.
true, yeah, because that just
The
turns it on
meanings,
its head.
yeah, that's
It goes
right.
from a question to a statement. It's a philosophical dilemma.
I think this is a really complex song. Like, not only is it upbeat, but also relaxed. And I think the lyrics are really mysterious. Like,
Yeah,
they
like I
ask
said.
that deep life
How
question.
is the level, Tracy?
Yeah.
How is the
Yeah.
level?
It's really up there with Brian Wilson, I think.
A lot of people ask, what is the level? Very few people ask, how is the level?
Exactly.
He
And
cares about how the level's doing.
It's not 11.
Just checking in.
It's not 11.
Yeah, they're not Spinal Tap.
And the answer to life's question isn't 42.
42.
The answer is okay. And wouldn't we all like to just be okay?
Be okay. Don't
In
panic.
in these days and times, wouldn't it be great just to be okay?
It's true.
Stephen is making a very deep judgment of society when he says that.
He is.
Are you saying that he was presciently asking about the level of coronavirus infection in the world? He knew this was going to happen.
I think he was
30
talking about
years ago?
Canada.
Okay.
How is the
Specifically.
level? How is the corona level in Canada? Okay.
They don't
See,
sell
now-
as much Corona there. They're more
No,
Molson
they're not.
Ice.
No. Yeah. See, now, I actually thought when I heard this song that he was discussing deeply and analytically the socioeconomic status of Ontario at the time.
It could be.
Like that's what I got out of this. Like he's really looking at the the issues of welfare and the progressiveness of the financial status and
the UN's happiness gauge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
See?
How does Canada compare with Norway and Sweden?
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And honestly, that's probably pretty true.
Okay.
They're doing okay.
We're doing okay.
Okay.
Got that free health care. We're good.
Yeah.
And I got feels when I was listening to this of like, I think they were making references to the Monkees. Like this, the way he says "okay" really has that like the beginning of Daydream Believer.
What number is this, Chip?
7A.
Okay, no, I mean, like, don't get excited, man. It's because I'm short, I know.
Where he's talking and Davey is asking,
Tracy.
like,
Oh yeah,
and he's got that same.
it's a take. Yeah.
Listen, they're too busy singing to put anybody down. No. Fun fact. Okay, another Aaron's fun fact here. If you ever find yourself in Japan and you need refuge, go to a 7-Eleven. The 7-Elevens in Japan are amazing. I never thought I would say 7-Eleven and amazing in the same sentence without the word not.
They're not okay.
They are amazing. They're beyond okay.
Okay.
7-Elevens are like, it's like walking into a Narnia of convenience. It's really, really great in Japan. And they're like one of the few places you can withdraw money with an American debit card. So that's why a lot of travelers flock to 7-Eleven. But in Japan, for some reason, the 7-Eleven Corporation seems to have licensed Daydream Believer by the Monkees as their theme song. So when you walk in there will be one of like 3 or 5 different versions, including like a Muzak instrumental version and like a weird cover I've never heard before. But we started to notice it because we went to 7-Eleven like almost every other day when we were out there. And every time they were playing Daydream Believer, I'm like, there's a pattern here and something's going on. So funny you should bring that up.
That is a
fun
weird
fact
phenomenon.
about the 7-Eleven. There's a fun fact about the 7-Eleven. You mentioned Narnia. What you don't know is that if you go into the outback of a 7-Eleven, you actually appear in a 7-Eleven in Japan. There is no outback.
Really? I didn't know
Did
that.
you know if you went to the outback of an Outback Steakhouse, you actually go to the outback in Australia?
Mind
We're blowing all
blown.
kinds of minds today here. You didn't know when you were tuning into this podcast you were going to learn something.
That is actually how I first visited the Sydney Opera House, was behind an
Through the
Outback
back of an
Steakhouse. Yeah,
Outback
that was.
Steakhouse.
Yeah, I was like, oh, this is
Thanks, Outback. This is
awesome.
lovely.
Hi, Wiggles. You know.
I just had to go to the bathroom, but this was a nice adventure.
10 points to Gryffindor for the Wiggles.
Well, that is one weird phenomenon that
Yeah.
I've always, like, when you talk about Japan and the fact that they play that song, that is, like, I'm a big, I'm obsessed with Todd in the Shadows. He's a YouTube music
Oh, I
reviewer.
love Todd in the Shadows. Yeah.
Love Todd in the Shadows.
Yeah, great.
And he does the one-hit wonderlands. And he talks all the time about these bands that have such obscurity in America, maybe one song and they faded out, but they're always big in Japan. And
Oh, yeah.
like, what was it, Mr. Big? Mr. Big, apparently.
Oh,
Literally,
Big.
Mr. Big in Japan. Tom Waits did a song called Big in Japan.
Yeah, that's...
About that very phenomenon.
Big in Japan. Big in Japan. Hey, but I'm big in Japan. Big in Japan.
They appreciate music over there. They're music lovers.
Yeah.
I love that culture.
Do we have anything more to say about this big song, though? The whole 5 seconds
Tracy,
of this song?
How can we possibly say everything there is to say about How's the Level? I mean,
It says it all.
We could talk for hours about this. I feel like we're best just moving on after our initial impression.
So when I wrote my college thesis on this song, I mean, I went 300 pages into
How
great
is
depth, and that's
the level?
available. That's available out there. You could just go and pull that up. It's on archive.org, and you can see that.
There we go. We'll put that into the liner
Yeah,
notes
put that
for
in the
this
link. Yeah, I really went to some deep analysis from that.
How many pages is it? 42?
No, 300 pages. I actually,
300
yeah,
page.
yeah. It's
Dissertation.
300 page dissertation on this song.
Okay.
Here's what I think is happening. Like last week on Holly Jolly Christmas, we managed to stretch that song out to about 45 minutes. You're trying to do the same. Let's see if we can top that.
We have already stretched it to beyond the song.
It's probably a good time to disclose that we get paid at a fixed hourly rate of $0 per hour. So the longer
I always
listen,
keep you at under an hour for that reason.
Because
if I keep you under an hour, you don't get paid.
That Bare Naked ABC's trailer out back is not going to pay for itself. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we actually talked about that last week, Aaron, because we said last week I was official on the podcast, and I said my trailer was out there. Yeah, Tracy, thank you. Tracy said he did not send the trailer, but you must have, so I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah. I got it from
I think that's where he's living.
Well, you don't pay me, Tracy, so I have to sleep somewhere.
It's your COVID-19 hangout. So that's our thoughts on this song, unless you guys have more to add on this song. But
what more could I possibly say? We
aren't the only Bare Naked podcast out there. So I reached out to the other podcasts because they only cover the ones that are actually on albums, so the canonical songs.
Oh, well,
we don't just cover just canonical songs.
But it's still, they talked about this song for an hour, so we're really laughing.
Did they really?
Right now. Yeah.
Okay,
but
guys.
they did send us a clip of their thoughts on this song.
Okay, I'm curious to hear.
So let's listen to it.
Is bad.
This is the Snakes playing of songs. It doesn't make any sense and shouldn't work, but it does, and I love it.
I hate it.
Fully clothed.
Bare naked.
Wow, that was extremely insightful.
Wow.
Yeah, their analysis is actually spot on.
Better than ours.
Props to you. Props.
Yeah.
Well clapped.
I don't know how they pulled so much out of that. So since we have so much extra time running over before I have to pull us off at 59 minutes.
Yeah, he didn't say free time. He didn't even remind us about how we're not getting paid.
Let's talk about the album, quote unquote, as a whole. Let's talk about Buck Naked.
Yes,
that we can do.
Let's do that.
So let me give a little bit more feedback. There are two different covers for this. The original cover was a green cover with the faces of Stephen and Ed pasted onto pictures of Terence Trent D'Arby, the writer of Wishing Well. That is a very, very rare edition of this tape. You can't find that version of this tape online. You can't even find it on eBay for sale. Who knows how many people actually have that first version of this tape. The second one has a white cover, black and white photo of Stephen and Ed tied together, looking over their shoulders at each other. It's really, really, really funny. And the first version of this tape credits Stephen with playing the sitar and Ed with playing the tablas. Both are instruments, by the way, that are heard usually in Indian music. Obviously, that's not what they're playing in these songs. And the liner note also carries the message, this is the kind of Christmas present you receive from a poverty-stricken, bare-naked lady. So, showing their humor from the very beginning. This tape was essential. Like most people, I think it's just a demo. It is more than just a demo. This is the tape that they gave to Corky and the Juice Pigs, that when Sean Cullen looked back on it, he said, listening to this tape, he really liked it. And especially the cover version of Wishing Well is what was his favorite track. And that's what actually encouraged him to want to have them be their opening act for their tour across Canada. That tour across Canada was also when they first experienced Halifax and thus came up with their first song on their opening album. So this song, this album was so utterly important. And I think it also really should be pointed out. I keep saying Bare Naked Ladies, but it's just Stephen and Ed. Mm-hmm. This was pre-Andy, pre-Jim, pre-Tyler coming on. This is just the two of them playing, and they're playing really, really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's really good.
And way pre-Kevin, by the way.
Way pre-Kevin. But these guys had only been playing with each other for about a month when this was recorded. Like, no experience with each other at this point. And they come up with this. If I remember correctly, October was when they first did their first gig together. This was recorded in the quote-unquote fall of that year. So somewhere within, I think, that first month to 2 months is when they recorded this first version to bring on the tour.
Was that the talent show, Tracy, where they had to come up with the name?
That was.
Oh, okay. That was their first gig.
That was their first.
Was it just the two gig of them with like some bongos and a guitar or two?
Yes.
That's awesome. I love that. I love that energy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that comes through a lot on this tape, and it's really cool.
Yeah.
It's interesting as someone who's you've mentioned now. I should say, Tracy, you've mentioned this album or this tape, demo tape, several times in the past, and it's nice. It was nice for me to finally be able to hear it. It's interesting to hear a lot of a more straightforward folk roxy type sound coming from Stephen Ed. I'm getting a bit of Tenacious D flavor, even though this tape predates Tenacious D by like 5 years, I think. But like same energy, you know what I mean? Like they're
well, in that first intro, I'm Stephen, I'm Ed, and we are Bare Naked Ladies. Like it just had. I went back and I re-listened to the Tenacious D album because I'm like, are they doing something similar there? Are they riffing? Are one of them the other? But there's no carryover. It's just that feel. Like you get that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like this album isn't even particularly comedic. There are some. I mean, obviously, in If I Had $1 Million and things like that, there are some comedic lines, but it's not over the top, off the wall the way Tenacious D is. But something about their music, something about their sound, with the kind of they have this like. I want to say punk rock. There's nothing really so super punk rock about the sound, but like there's a punk rock like attitude filtered through this like folk roxy kind of sound, which I might be put on the it might be put in the Iron Maiden for saying this, but I think kind of maybe anticipates the anti-folk movement or something like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's cool. Go ahead.
It's very early.
Yeah.
And of course, you can tell that they haven't played together for very long because they're still getting their feel for their harmonies and stuff. They're not off. They're not horrible.
No, definitely not.
But they're not spot on like they will be later on.
Yeah, it's a very loose. I mean, the whole recording is very loosey-goosey and very, it's unpolished. There's a certain charm that comes with that. And it's interesting because you can hear little glimmers of what's to come. You know what I mean? It's interesting. To me, there's almost like a Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young flavor to some of this. You know what I mean? But slightly less serious, I guess.
Well, I actually heard when it starts up with Roadrunner, I hear a lot of Everly Brothers in that.
Yeah,
like that sounds like an Everly Brothers song.
Yeah.
The harmonies,
legitimately.
The guitar. Yeah, and. I got to say, like those harms are tight throughout the whole thing. But I was really impressed when this track started, and I was like, "Holy!" And it's a fun little song about literally the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, but it's a fun song. It just sounds great.
Yeah, I think anyone who listened to this, I can totally understand, Tracy, what you were saying. What was the band that they were opening for eventually?
Corky and the Juice Pigs.
Corky and the Juice Pigs, that's right.
They were the band that actually opened that did a lot of the music for Mad TV the first 2 seasons.
Okay. But I can see like what they heard. You hear a lot of potential in this. I mean, it's definitely, there's a lot of decent stuff here already. But like you can hear the seeds of what's to come. And you can just tell the chemistry between Steve and Ed is there. It's evident from the beginning. And one of the things I love most about this was how much fun they're just obviously having recording this. It's infectious.
It is. And even though it doesn't sound quote-unquote professional, there are times that it breaks down. They recover, and they're having fun. Like you laugh along with them, and you enjoy it, no matter how many times you're listening to it. I'm on my like 4th time this week already, just because it is a whole 45-minute thing to listen to. Because the version I think we listened to was their 4th edition, which ends up covering, I want to say 14 songs.
Sounds about right.
So the second edition only had 13 songs, which counts the 5-second outro track that we talked about tonight. It's interesting that they did that they're trying to cover this 5 seconds in the tape. Most people would leave that 5 seconds blank. Like, okay, end of tape, no big deal. I love the fact they're like, let's fill it with something. Let's do something fun here.
And that's a staple of them. I mean, even in the early days with their albums, there was always that hidden playfulness. Like, here's what we do behind the scenes. It started from the beginning. I mean, that's BNL. We're having fun. We're doing this for fun.
Sorry, go ahead, Tiff. Sorry.
No, go ahead. That's fine. Yeah.
No. You please continue.
No, I was going to say, I mean, we got to see what we hear at the end of Gordon and what we hear at the end of the live albums,
Agreed.
Right from the start. That's who they were. I mean, they were just having a good time, throwing out jokes. If things weren't quite right, they would rebound, and that's, you really hear that on this album. Like, I absolutely had a blast listening to this demo.
Yeah, fun is a word that I would use to describe it, definitely.
And there's songs that you get on this album that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, certainly the first time I've heard a lot of these. One note about the ending, ending with, how's the level. I think I've referenced in previous episodes how the Beatles used to make the loop groove, because at the end of a record, a lot of record players will pick up and just go off, but like older record players would just stay in the loop at the very end, right? This final groove that just keep playing over and over. So the Beatles used to make a little like loopable kind of 5-second like just ditty, and it would just keep playing and playing and playing and playing and playing at the end. So I feel like this is kind of a similar
homage
idea here. Yeah.
And I could see them doing that as an homage to the Beatles.
Yeah, it's so hard to be like, I feel like everyone who's making rock music to a certain extent owes something to the Beatles, so it's hard. It's hard.
That's a gimmick, because the Beatles did so many different things. Like, everything spreads out from them in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Well, they showed that. They showed that in the first album with Yoko. So
there's a Beatles reference there. Exactly.
So some songs that you get on here that are very different versions are King of Bedside Manor, Be My Yoko Ono, $1 Million, and Great Provider. It's interesting because let's talk about those four. They're definitely early versions of the band.
Oh, yeah.
And I would say that if you had to pick the songs on this album that were the weakest songs, the ones that they end up taking and making great songs out of are the weaker songs on this album, I think.
I have some thoughts on that.
Go ahead.
Would you be cool with me going down these really quick and just kind of talking about them? So I knew very few of these songs prior. I knew like Be My Yoko Ono, If I Had $1 Million, The Great Provider. But most of these I hadn't heard before, and a lot of these you don't hear anywhere else anyways. But like, it's interesting to me that they had a song called Trouble with Tracy. Why haven't we named a segment Trouble with Tracy yet? Come on. We
totally stole my joke there, Aaron.
Sitting on a gold mine here. I feel like, Tracy, you need to find something you don't like about every song that we do, and that can be the Trouble with Tracy segment.
All right. He
never seems to do what he's told.
Here's the trouble with Tracy for this song.
Okay, please.
It's too short.
Okay, yeah.
I like this song, and I really wish it went much longer.
Yeah, I like their songs like Hello City that tell a story, and that's one of them. So that I could definitely see that being a little longer and kind of going more into what's going on there. It tantalizes you, but it leaves you wanting more.
I love those moaning harmonies from Ed.
Yeah,
like
there's some really
nice really nice little sound things they do vocally in that song that I just loved.
Agreed.
I meant How's the Level? That's the song.
Oh, you wanted more.
I wanted more.
More sound check.
More cowbell.
I could have used more cowbell, to be honest. I think my favorite of the tunes probably is Great Provider. Shocking.
Agreed.
I know that
Agreed.
Aaron likes the sad sounding song in a minor key. Who would have
I
thought?
totally agree with you on that one, actually.
I really like this version of Great Provider. I mean, it kind of reminded me, not to go back to the Beatles too much, but it kind of reminded me of like Working Class Hero by John Lennon or something like that. You know what I mean? There's something in that minor key that just really speaks to me. And it's so stark with just the acoustic and stuff like that. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one, actually. That was one of the standout tunes for me.
And that guitar riff at the end.
Yeah.
That was man.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good stuff.
But I have to say, like, those 4 songs, that's where I missed the 4 guys. Those were the spots where I was like,
again,
I mean, the other 3 guys. Sorry, not 4.
You hear the basis for what is to come. How young were they when they recorded this, Tracy? They must have been
19 and I want to say 18.
18 or 19, 20. Pretty young. But they're already making great music together. And, they blend so well. I mean, it must have been a thing where I've played before with many different bands, you know, just from different college groups and stuff like that, and then a few other bands that I've been in. And you can tell when things click, there's just this kind of magic that occurs. And they must have just immediately, when they started playing together, knew, like, this is a great. And that, to this day, this is why I wish, I still hold out hope for a reunion with Stephen Page and maybe a new album. But, you know, who knows? But anyways, let's see, where did I leave off? Great Provider. Yeah, I love that song. When I came across Make My Heart Fly, I recognized that folksy strumming pattern from How's the Level. So I'm not sure if they were doing a sound check for that song or just, you know, they were kind of just getting ready. But that's very similar strumming pattern there. It was.
You know where that song comes from, right?
That's a cover.
That's
Who
a cover.
Who was that originally by?
That is a cover by the Pretenders, the Proclaimers.
Oh my God, are you
from the Proclaimers? Really?
Are you serious, dude? Because when you said the Pretenders, I was like, oh, it's too bad it's not the Proclaimers. But then you said the Proclaimers. So 500 Miles, right?
Yeah. Wow.
They are a big Proclaimers fan.
Wow, that's amazing.
I think 500 Miles is the only song I know by the Proclaimers. But my entire family, if you put enough alcohol in us, we bust that out karaoke every time. Like that's a classic, you know.
Definitely check out their catalog. I would highly recommend Proclaimers.
Yeah,
they are fantastic.
Like, I'm all about that Scottish indie rock.
Yeah.
Well, and the great thing about the Proclaimers that you don't get anywhere else is they do harmonies like no other band I've ever heard.
Really tight harmonies. It's true. It's true. So I can see the influence there potentially. That's cool. I didn't know that was a Proclaimers tune. I'll have to check it out. But yeah, similar strumming pattern to How's the Level. It was interesting to hear You Can Be My Yoko Ono, that unpolished and raw. It's still a great song. It sounds way more folksy, and I can almost close my eyes and imagine these two playing this up on stage at like an open mic at a bar. And how cool might that have been? Because I'm sure they did that at some point. There is definitely like a charm to the amateurish quality of the sound recording, but it's not exactly Steve Albini, you know, like it, if I were going to listen to Be My Yoko Ono, I'll be honest, I'm probably going to go to the Gordon version. But, you know, it is interesting to hear the origins of that. Or I also really like the version they did for the Toronto video booth thing.
What was
it called again?
Of course, now you're going to ask me because I'm gone.
Put you on the spot. It was like Hello Toronto or something like that. I'm thinking Hello City, but
it'll come back to me in a little bit.
Okay. But yeah, that was interesting. When I saw Psycho Killer in the track listing, I was wondering if it was going to be a cover of the song by Talking Heads. I was pleased that A, it was, and B, it was actually a pretty decent cover. They made it their own, you know, the feel is totally different, and I liked it. It definitely, you know, to me, when I don't know, when I hear that song, I think of my friends in Quebec just because of the Qu'est-ce que c'est. So it's interesting to me that a Canadian band covered it and did a really good job with it. Really, it was interesting. I like that
until they messed up the lyrics, but they had fun with it.
Yeah, again. There's this fun quality. They're just having fun and playing music, and it's very infectious.
Well, I love the fact that, like, so this is a tape. They obviously did a couple different takes of this. I mean, we know they did because they did more than one version of this. So they could have gone back but they're like, no, we're having fun. Let's just keep it.
Well, yeah, I've kind of commented before on. I've lamented the popularity of autotune in our society and things like that, and so many. You know, I hear people talking about like. I don't know, it's kind of really getting off on a tangent here, but maybe it's the Scots shocking, but I hear people be like, oh, Kurt Cobain was a terrible vocalist, et cetera, but like, I don't know, man. I listen to Nirvana, and when I hear his voice crack and things like that, there's so much emotion in that. There's more to singing well than just matching pitch perfectly.
Right. Yes.
And there's something in this album which is you can just hear the smiles on their faces, and it's like, oh man, I wish I were there with them when they were playing it. It just seems like they're having such a good time. It makes me smile. So it's really cool. There's something really cool about this tape. I have to agree. I can understand the nostalgic appeal. It might seem strange, but I would really love to hear B&L from this era cover Planet Caravan by Black Sabbath. Maybe it's the bongos that are making me feel that way, but I would love to hear between that, you know, and the minor key of Great Provider. I was like, oh man, there's something there. I could feel them covering that being really good. If I Had $1 Million, it's interesting. It's a more or less the same song, but I don't like it nearly as much. It's not just the unpolished recording. I think they made it a lot more fun over the years. Like the Haven't You Always Wanted a Monkey line is way more fun in the Gordon recording. And of course, but not a real green dress, that's cruel. I'm guessing the former was something added, you know, in rehearsal, just having fun. They're like, oh, that's really funny. You should always do it that way. And right. The latter maybe was like a malapropism or like a mistake. And then once they made it, they liked it so much. Because I can tell you, how many times I have like messed up lyrics or like done the lyrics from the last verse, so I could see them being like, "But not a real green dress." That's cruel. And like kind of laughing, like, "Oh, you should always do that. That's hilarious." So like, it's kind of interesting to see how these songs have grown and changed. This version also lacks a lot of the post-chorus chatter that makes the studio version so endearing. There is some, but like the Dijon ketchups and such really made the song what it is, in my opinion. Just my hot take. I will say this, in as much as like post-song chatter and like just the little kind of realisms that are shared, I love Steve's stupid laugh at the end of A Message to You, Rudy. He's like, oh, I had to do the stupid laugh.
I had to do the stupid laugh.
It just
right?
made me laugh so hard. The super cheesy Casio keyboard in Wishing Well would not sound out of place on a modern indie rock album. So maybe they were even more ahead of the curve than we would have thought.
Well, and they could have done guitar. They've done guitar during the rest of the album. They could have done drums and stuff. They're going, no, let's do this. Let's do the really fake synth drums,
right?
And let's do the keyboard, and like let's go
those
over
arpeggios
the top.
in the keyboard.
Yeah.
Like, because if you listen to Wishing Well, the original version, it does sound very much like a person that is just having a keyboard playing in the background. I almost think in some ways this is them making a comment about that.
Yeah, I mean the whole tape is, of course, very amateur in a way that even like super indie self-recording artists these days would probably not be, thanks to digital tools and production gloss. But this, combined with the unrestrained enthusiasm and just the very evident amount of fun they're having on this recording, like I said, is super infectious, super charming. Careless is, of course, the one song, at least in the version that appears on this album, from Buck Naked that I haven't heard, that I have heard before. And I still don't love it, but I don't hate it. It's a cute song with a playful feel, not a bad track to end this tape on, given the overall feel of the album, although I guess technically they ended on House the Level. Ultimately, I think they chose the right songs to go on Gordon. You know, if anything, like this just shows like they were totally dead on with like, I would have picked the same songs to go on there and develop in the way that they did. I haven't yet heard the Gordon version of King of Bedside Manor, so I'm really looking forward to seeing if I like that more, and I'm wondering how this will impact my reception of it a little bit.
You will find, I won't give a lot of it away. You will find it's a very, very different recording.
I'm sure.
If you listen to the original and then you come back to this, you can definitely feel everything that's missing.
There's something very big missing from the Gordon version on the demo.
I'm very
well.
curious.
I don't know if it's big, but it's many.
I was curious if they were going to do, and I don't know if I can spoil it for Aaron, but I was curious in the demo if they were going to do the Mr. Roboto break.
Oh, that, yes.
Oh, I'm very curious now.
I thought you meant the fact that it was the naked track.
Yeah.
Oh, was it?
It was.
Did they start that with Buck Naked? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And,
wow.
Well, no, it was the naked track for Gordon.
Gordon, I got you. Yeah.
And it gives it a completely different level. And the reason they did that, we'll come back to it when we cover King of Bedside Manor again, was because they felt like they weren't getting what they wanted out of that song, and they couldn't figure out why, and they couldn't fix it. And
apparently nobody asked how's the level, I guess.
That's right.
Turn up my snare.
Although they did the naked track, so maybe they were asking how long.
Oh.
No.
Wow.
No.
But yeah, so that's why they did the naked track. Was Jim was like, well, why don't we just all get naked and do this track? And they did, and that's what happened. Was they came up with this completely different version of King of Bedside Manor that they ever had played before.
Interesting.
So, I'm excited to come back to that one because I really love that song.
Well, I've exhausted my notes, so I feel like I've spoken enough. Jeff, if you want to take the floor here.
All right. Actually, you said a lot of the same things I was going to say. Like I mentioned, listening to this, I had a lot of fun. This was a great find. It was hearing the boys give us what we were going to get a lot of, and just having a good time and having fun. Like I said, when Roadrunner started, it to me felt like an Everly Brothers song. The harmonies, the feel of the music, just these two guys were meshing from the start. The 4 tracks that they would later do, I agree that Great Provider was the one that I think maybe I like this version better. And I'm a Maybe You Should Drive fan. That's my favorite Naked Ladies album. And which is interesting that song didn't make it to Gordon, but it waited. But I do love I love the echo vocals on Great Provider. I love that guitar riff at the end. It's raw, it's haunting. It's the way the song I think should sound. Like you mentioned, there's just something about hearing an artist perform a song that means something to them in a very raw way. You talked about Kurt Cobain, and I had the 4 disc box set of Nirvana, and I had some demos on there from Kurt. Yeah. And just hearing him, basically, you couldn't imagine sitting in a room just strumming, Heart-Shaped Box or one of his demos. There's just something about that
haunting.
And it works here.
I almost feel like I got almost like The Flag kind of feel from that recording. Right. Great Provider.
And that's another song that works that way too. I mean, don't polish up The Flag. It sounds great the way it is. It's right. But yeah, like King of Bedside Manor, I think sounds good on this. It's not the Gordon version. I love the breaks in that. I love the fact that it slips into the Mr. Roboto, and but I love that starting though. The excuse me, haven't we met?
Oh my gosh, I love the starting. Why did they ever get rid of that?
Yeah, that should have stayed. Yeah, that should have stayed there. That was great. Night Photographs was an interesting one.
What's interesting is last week in Steven's concert, he played that one.
Did he?
Yeah.
I would have liked to have heard that, because the one gripe I have about this demo is that song I found really hard to hear the lyrics to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to, without having lyrics in front of you, but
they're not that deep.
They're not, but I know, but it's
they're very tongue in cheek, like
right. It's B&L. They're B&L lyrics.
Are they deeper? Are they deeper than "How's the Level"? Okay.
No, nothing's deeper than that.
No, that's the deepest lyrics in the whole album, right there.
That was their Stairway to Heaven, dude. That was their Hedgerow, and Yeah, when I was listening to this, though, when I got the Be My Yoko Ono, my note I actually wrote down the word weird. Because yeah, I could, like Aaron said, I could see that being the version they would get up in an open mic and they would do together, but I definitely prefer the Gordon version.
It's missing something. Yeah.
I miss like the and everything, and they don't even say "Don't blame it on Yoki," which is that was added later. But Psycho Killer for me was a highlight.
Yeah, definitely.
It was. I'm a huge Talking Heads fan, and I said, "What are they going to do with this song?" And when those harmonies kick in on the chorus.
That was something new. I like
that. And they're harmonizing to that. I was like, oh,
nice addition.
Really, really, really awesome. And they got playful in the second verse, which I liked. I love the way Ed says the line, I hate people when they're not polite. Really. But obviously at the end it gets a little bit weird when you're obviously struggling with the lyrics and where they're going to go with and everything. But there again, that's organic. That's, but yeah, to me that was a highlight. I think for If I Had $1 Million, my notes said basically, it's If I Had $1 Million. It's there's not too much you could do with that except add and add and add. And like Aaron said, some of the jokes and the playfulness that will come later. Haven't you always wanted a monkey? Anyone who knows B&L or knows that song, that's how they're going to sing that line. So not hearing it like that was a little...
Yeah, it felt wrong.
It felt wrong, yeah.
Well, they haven't gotten into their banter yet. They haven't done any live shows, I think.
Well, and that's fair. That's fair. They weren't there yet. But, I mean, if I had heard this version, I would have laughed. I would have chuckled and everything. But this is one of those cases where knowing the studio version, definitely it's like... I really liked Rudy. It's lyrically not profound. It's not the later biting, witty B&L lyrics. But that is a fun song. And like I said, I was so happy when I was listening to this because, as I mentioned, I've been learning to play guitar to play my own music because I have a lot of I wrote a whole bunch of originals recently, and I was going to do the old route with the parodies, and I was going to plan on going to my producer and doing tracks, but there was something in the back of my head that said, no, at some point you've got to learn the instrument, you've got to play your stuff. And I know it's going to take a while. I know nobody learns guitar in a day or a month or a year. But I've been an hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours a night playing guitar. That's why I've been taking a break from, new stuff. But when I was listening to this song, right off the bat, I was like, that's the same chord progression as Be My Yoko Ono. And just kind of the things that I'm starting to hear now as I've been doing it, I'm like, I could probably play that. I think I know those 4 chords, maybe. And I don't know if that's in my repertoire. As long as it doesn't have F. Because I can't play F yet. But
and that's something that we haven't mentioned yet that's I think important to bring up. Not the F part.
Not the F. We don't give
dropping F-bombs over here.
We don't give an F about that.
They have a lot of covers on here. They don't do any covers on their actual releases.
Right.
But they have one. So we have Roadrunner, Wishing Well, Psycho Killer, Make My Heart Fly, and A Message to You, Rudy.
Mm-hmm.
All
Wait,
on.
Is Rudy a cover?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a cover. Well, when we come to that song, we'll talk about who wrote it. But yeah, it is a cover.
Oh, okay.
A very unknown cover. It's not a very well-known song, but definitely
less known than the Proclaimers, I guess. Yeah.
And I guess you could even say, Really Don't Know is a cover. So I wanted to bring that up. Really Don't Know. This is the only time that we hear this song is the song that brought Ed and Steve together. Really Don't Know is the song that that Steven wrote with Gary Poonset for their band Scary Movie Breakfast. That then Ed heard that tape, listened to it over and over, loved it, was walking around the Toronto music camp singing it and doing the harmonies to that. Steven overheard him and said, "Where did you hear that?" And Ed was like, "Well, I heard this tape." And Steven's like, "Well, I wrote that song." they harmonized and immediately clicked. This was the song that brought them together, and we have it on every version of this tape. And we never hear it again.
But that makes sense if it wasn't technically a B&L song. I think they wanted to kind of start with, collaborations and that kind of thing. So I guess I can kind of see that. We were left with Wishing Well, which I love. I love the Terrence Trent D'Arby version. Great song, and I love what they do with that. The falsettos on that song from both Ed and Steve are fantastic. I love that. I love that bass that Ed does towards the end. And just hearing Careless the way it is on here is great. And I always love that because just the play on words, because if you see the title, it's Careless. And then if you hear you probably have already talked about this, but then when you actually hear the song, it's Careless, two actually completely different things. And I love that little play on words that they do there.
Well, and they make a mistake in there, and I wish I could remember exactly what it is, and they continue with it.
Oh, yeah.
And they don't try to redo the song. They don't try. It's like they couldn't care less. It's like they're actually making a statement basically about themselves.
Making a statement, yeah. There's a guitar riff in there on the demo, though, that just kills. It shreds. I love it. But yeah, and then How's the Level? After hearing this great demo for 45 minutes, you get to How's the Level, and what a closer! Man, way to bring it home.
I love that they close with that. It is the Her Majesty's end to this album.
It's a better closer than Have You Seen My Love?
But not Hidden Sun.
Right.
I have, at this point, worn through all of the notes that I have about this tape. Just to kind of finish up, I really like this tape. It was a pleasure to listen to it over and over. Even though this album was made in their basement and it's been remastered, you can see why people came to their shows. You can see the beginnings and the raw material that later would become a star band. It's just there. You can hear the charisma. You can hear the fun they're having. You can see why they would one day take off.
Yeah, I mean the talent's there. The chemistry is there. The harmonies are starting to form. I enjoyed it as a whole. As an experience, the album, the tape is very listenable. Obviously not as polished as some of the later stuff, but it's cool to see where they came from and kind of see the trajectory they took.
I could see putting, tracks from this on my playlist, on a driving playlist, because there's like we talked about, I know Aaron talked about this too, but sometimes, as much as you love the polished stuff, you love it when it's studio produced and everything, there's just something about hearing certain things raw and organic, and like Great Provider, for example, just love the way it sounds here. And it's I think every B&L fan, one of the things we love about them is that they're playful and that they have fun doing what they're doing, at least for a period of time they did. You really get to hear that because, towards the end of Steve being in the band and everything, I know a lot of that didn't exist. So it's good to go back and see at one point, this is what the band was.
Yeah. And I think what I like about this tape more than anything is I was expecting to go back, and if you listen to the unmastered version of this, yes, this crackles. It sounds very distant and tinny. This remastered version is amazing. The people that did this, I'm going to post in the liner notes the process they went through to make this happen. They did an amazing job with remastering this and making it sound as well as they did. But taking that aside, this doesn't sound like a demo tape in a lot of ways. If you listen to Lilac Girl, if you listen to Roadrunner and Psycho Killer and Trouble with Tracy, those don't sound like first drafts, demo tape type music. It sounds like these guys have been playing together for a couple of years and have time underneath them at this point, and they don't. And I think that's what's amazing about this.
Yeah, I think the only exception I would say to that would be Night Photographs, which is the only song that I felt sounded like a demo.
Yeah.
Which is, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's how bands get their start, and you know, we love the demos. We love to hear the raw stuff. It's a conversation I have with my wife all the time. A lot of her artists are singer-songwriter types, you know, white guys with acoustic guitars, as Todd in the Shadows would say. And, you know, going back and hearing their early stuff, their demos, I mean, it's what fans love to do. But yeah, even like you said, there's a lot of stuff on here because of the remaster that doesn't sound like a demo per se.
So that being said, we have to rank this thing.
Yeah.
We ranked Holly Jolly Christmas.
Are we ranking?
Are we ranking?
We have to rank How's the Level.
How's the level?
It's officially on there. It has a name. I mean, we
ranked week in a row where
Song.
I'm not giving. Is this the third week in a row where I'm not going to be giving one of my usual flowery high rankings? I think
probably.
I'm on a weird stretch right now. This is. And I gave Home a high ranking.
So how many we're talking about How's the Level, so we have to go with my favorite reference, of course, of all time. How many amp notches do you give this? And it doesn't go to 11.
I was going to say.
It only goes to 5.
It does not go to 11.
Well, we need that extra kick over the cliff.
Especially with this song, because we got to be honest. How many amp notches are you going to give this song? This 5-second song. Aaron, I'm gonna toss to you.
Oh
yes.
Put me in the hot seat. All right.
I put Jeff in the hot seat on the last song.
Yeah, I've had to go first like 2 weeks in a row.
I have to preface this. I have to head cheer because I will say this: like, by giving this a low rating, I'm not saying that I wish it wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? I'm glad it's a thing. I'm glad it exists. Like I said, as an artifact or as like a little curio on the album. I think it's a cute little tag to it.
Actually, I'm going to interrupt you real quick, Aaron.
Go ahead.
Jeff, I think it was you last week that said this isn't a real song.
Right.
I can't really give it anything above a 1.
I felt that 1 should be reserved for the official actual song.
A real song above. Yeah. So we're gonna readjust our ratings 0 to 1.
Okay.
How many? And I'm gonna readjust my number for last week. Holly Jolly Christmas now drops down
again.
It is going to drop down because we're reassessing, and I will give it when we get to me. But anyways, Aaron, you were saying 0 to 1. How many amp notches do you give this?
Can I say something real quick because Aaron wasn't on last week? I have to point this out. I actually have it in my notes. I wrote down the date. On last week's show, Aaron actually was going to give Holly Jolly Christmas a ranking above 1, and I think I maybe have convinced him to drop it below.
No, it was me. That was me. Aaron wasn't here.
Yeah, no, that's what I said. You, Tracy. Yeah,
okay.
So, yeah, that makes me feel a little better about this. Because again, I don't want to be, I'm not trying to be a jerk here. And I am glad it exists. But like as a song, by the criteria that I try and judge these, like would I go and seek this out? I can't really say that I would.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I'll put it this way: I'm listening to this tape. I'm not going to stop it before just because I don't want to listen to it.
Right.
I feel like that would be a 0. Like oh God, no, I can't. If it was just like a 130 decibel scream or whatever, maybe I would stop it. But I don't want to hear that. I want to leave my eardrums intact. So that would be a 0. It's not a song. It's a sound check. I like it. It's cool that it's in the end of the album, but it's not really a song. It's not something I would ever seek out. So I'm going to give it a quarter of an amp notch. We'll give it 0.25 amp notches. And that's, okay, like I said, I think that quarter of a notch is just for the kind of like, I think it's as high as it is, if you will, just because like it fits in with kind of the unpolished nature of the album. It's a nice little tag at the end. So I will give it a quarter notch for that.
It'll be interesting to see what you give Holly Jolly Christmas then. All right.
Much lower.
Jeff, let's toss over to you. What do you give this song?
Using the criteria, like we said last week, it's not a song. It's not a studio song. It's not a real song. It's not a song at all. So definitely, like I said, it would have to be within that 0-1 ranking. I'm not going to rank it as high as Holly Jolly Christmas because that was Tyler singing, having a good time, having a blast. This isn't even that. It's 4 chords. It's Steven asking a question. Would I turn it off at the end of Careless? No, but it's fun to hear it. But it's nowhere near the playful banter that we would get later. I can't rank this high. I gotta say, yes, is it fun? It's there. But I've got to say 0.1 notches on the amp.
All right.
0.1 notch on the amp.
0.1 notch. Okay.
All right. Notches, not notches.
All right. I'm struggling with this because musically, this is better than Holly Jolly. When it comes down to it, Holly Jolly, even though it's just synth and synth drum, this is at least a well-sounding, well-tuned guitar, and the tune itself is, although it's only 5 seconds long, it's actually engaging and entertaining. On the other side, you're right. Steven doesn't sing. He's doing a sound check. And as much fun as we have had with it, there's nobody singing in this week. I'm going to have to go with a 0.5.
Whoa.
And I will also, I'm going to drop the one from last week, though, to a 0.6. I'm going to drop Holly Jolly down to a 0.6.
What did I give it, a 0.9?
Now you're asking me to bring it up.
I'm sorry. I'm making you research. I apologize.
Am I going to be the only one who rates Holly Jolly Christmas lower than how's the level? Oh, man.
I struggled with that, Aaron. I really did. I was wondering whether I should.
Somehow we managed to talk about it for 45 minutes.
I think it's because it's a Christmas song. It's the final nail of the coffin.
Yeah. Understood. Do we have other Nada songs in the agenda?
Not off the top of my head right now.
I'm sure there's something.
However, it depends on how you define some of the songs that are on the Bare Naked Holiday album. So,
right. You know what? I actually think now that we're talking about it, and now that some clarity, I think I'm going to lower my ranking for Holly Jolly too.
Okay.
Not quite as low because, like I said, it is fun to hear Tyler.
Technically a song.
Yeah, not technically a song, right? I'm going to give it a 0.7.
0.7. Okay. Boy, we have really dropped that one. It is now below a point. With everyone average, that is now below a point until Aaron does whatever he does.
But wasn't there a ranking above 1 still last week?
There was one above a 1, yes.
It can only go down from here, Tracy.
We'll see where Aaron sets when I edited it in. All right, so with that being said, I do have an appearance for this week. Actually, before we get to appearances, I want to give us the breakdown. I think we're a little over a third of the way through the podcast at this point.
Wow.
Depending upon any other releases that BNL puts out between
that double album they're going to put out in a month.
Yeah. Well, now that they're sequestered and quarantined in their spaces, that single album might expand significantly.
Ed's got notebooks and notebooks of pages of lyrics.
Aaron, I broke down based on what we have so far, what our favorite albums are. Would you like to guess what, based on the numbers that we have right now, what your favorite album is?
My favorite album so far, it's either going to be Stunt or Maroon.
Okay. Actually, the number one doesn't even come close to the other ones. It is Gordon
Yeah,
by a
probably-
long shot.
Oh yeah.
Brian Wilson, of
Yeah.
Mayoko.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this also, though. I feel like there's a lot of B's on that album.
Brian Wilson, Be My Yoko Ono, Blame It On Me. Yeah,
Right.
there are.
Oh, just wait till we get to more of the Maybe You Should Drive songs. I'm gonna crank that
I
out.
love Maybe You Should
So-
Drive. What I've heard so far, I love Stunt, love Maroon. So
Your number 2, Maybe
Yeah.
You Should Drive.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Your number 3, Stunt.
Yeah.
Now, I had
Where's
to
Maroon?
redo some of the. Thank God that we're late on recording tonight. I actually had to redo some of the numbers because when I crunched the numbers, it counted in the songs that are not actually on the album, but were written for the album and added as extras.
Okay.
So I cut them out. If they were not on the album proper, they are gone in this analysis.
Okay.
In doing that, Silverball went from second to last place all the way up to 9th place. And just cutting out Count Back On and Falling Down. Or counting down and fall back on.
Back on. Yeah.
I got the words mixed up. There. That being said, do you have a guess on what your least favorite album is?
Well, I was going to say Silverball, but now I'm going to say Grinning Streak.
You're close. That is your second least favorite. Your least favorite is Snack Time by a long shot.
Obviously. Well,
Oh.
I wasn't even
Oh.
considering that a real album.
Now, I will say that some of these albums have not had much representation so far.
True.
So, for example, Stunt has only had 2 songs so far. So,
Well, it has my favorite song thus far on it, which is why I thought it would be higher. But I guess that's
it's right up there. The other thing that needs to be said is that Grinning Streak, we actually have a pretty fair comparison on so far because we have 9 out of the 15 songs already done for that one.
Wow.
So I don't know if our rankings are going to change that much on Grinning Streak, and it is second to last for you right now, my friend.
Is that is Grinning Streak? Was Bank Job on Grinning Streak?
No, that is Our Me,
Okay, that's why.
which is right square in the middle.
Yeah. Okay, that seems about right.
Well, let's see what happens when I go back and add my rankings.
And all
Yeah,
the new
right.
stuff is at the bottom for you. The bottom 4, other than Snack Time, the bottom 4 are the new ones.
I mean, yeah, based on what I've heard so far, that seems to align. Again, there's a lot of newer songs that are really, really good. I don't mean to imply that there's not good songs on there.
Well, that's the other thing is
from
your
what I've
lowest
heard thus
album. Your lowest album. Sorry, I didn't interrupt you there.
aside from Snack Time.
Your lowest album, counting Snack Time, is still a 2.78,
Yeah, that's really good, right?
and a 2.5 is an okay song.
That's right. That says a lot.
So that does say a lot. So for me, of course, I guessed this ahead of time. No
You love
surprise.
Snack Time.
Gordon is number 1.
Yeah.
Like way up there at the top. Now you said Snack Time. It's actually on my bottom 4.
Is it really? Okay.
It is. It is.
I was just teasing you, but
The number 2 did not surprise me. Actually, number 2 surprised me a little bit. I was going to say it was Stunt. It was
I
not
think you should
Stunt.
drive.
It was Maroon.
Oh, Maroon. Okay. Well, Maroon's really good.
And
From what I've
really throwing me for
Yeah.
a loop, I never saw this coming in a million years, is Born on a Pirate Ship.
There's a lot of good stuff on Pirate Ship.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think. Is Call Me Calmly on
It is.
Born on a Pirate
It
Ship?
is, yeah.
Yeah, I think that one
Break-
brought up the average a little bit.
Break Your Heart's on Pirate Ship too. And that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
That what's interesting. I think I already raised my rating on Break Your Heart, but recently I was with Tracy at a live show by Stephen Page online, a coronavirus stream, if you will, and he did an amazing rendition of that. And I kind of feel like I'm going to raise my rating for that song
Yeah.
again come this year.
I still think
The more I
vocally
hear
that's
it, the
one of
more
his
I love
best
it.
performances.
It's
That's
fantastic.
Yeah, it is a gorgeous, especially when it's done live. Like
Yeah, right.
live is how that song is meant to be done.
Yeah. Mhm.
Reminded me of Joe Cocker's "What Would You Do If I Sang Out of Tune?"
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I would little help from my
Yeah.
friends.
Especially at the end when he just starts belting.
Yeah,
out
it just
of
goes for
Yeah,
it. It's great. It's great.
Now my lowest one, and this should go without saying, is Silverball. Garrett, it's been now mathematically proven so far, at least in the in the first third, Silverball is my lowest album so far.
Since he was a young boy, Tracy hated Silverball.
Now, I did have one surprise that came out of this. Stunt was my number 5 album.
I would have figured it would be higher, yeah.
I know, and I'm trying to figure out what happened there that it is not higher.
What has been covered? I don't have a track list.
Because
what has been covered from Stunt?
Something's wrong with my numbers because Call and Answer I gave a 4.8 and Alcohol I gave a 5. Something's wrong with my numbers because that should be up at the very top given those two numbers because we've only covered 2 off from Stunt so far.
That seems wrong.
Yeah, something's wrong there. And actually yours Stunt should be the top on yours as well right now. So something happened with that one. I don't know what happened with the numbers on that one. But other than that, the other ones were all correct. I checked it 3 times. So I'm not sure what happened with Stunt. Oh, I see what happened with Stunt. Yeah. So Stunt should be much higher.
We haven't done many of Stunt, but Alcohol is probably my favorite BNL tune I've heard so far. So Enid is really high up there. The Flag is up there. There's so many good ones.
Which pushes Gordon up. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Okay.
And what a good boy's on Gordon too, and that's one.
Yeah. Stunt is our number 1 for both of us off this album.
Interesting. Okay.
But it only has 2 songs so far. Yeah. So really that should have an asterisk next to it because 2 out of 13 songs isn't really a good comparison.
Right.
So we may or may not agree with that, but we'll see down the road.
Okay.
And Jeff, we haven't had your numbers in there enough. Well,
yeah, I'm curious to see how Jeff's numbers make things.
Yeah, I haven't done enough from the albums. I have done more interviews since I started. So.
True. So it'll be interesting to see what your numbers end up doing.
Yeah, I will go through and plug those in. I will work on that.
Excellent. And somewhere around the half mark, depending on what BNL does that makes us shift that, we will see and we'll redo that and give another analysis. To do a quick, because it was an official song, there's an appearance. There was an interview that they did recently where they talked about the Yellow Tape. So I'll put that in here, including the person that actually did the artwork for the Yellow Tape, which is a really cool thing to hear them talking about that. You know, if you've been listening for the last few weeks, you know that I really, really messed up this next section. I forgot Holly Jolly Christmas off the list and then started recording my next week's sections without realizing my mistake until about halfway through. But I'm just laughing at myself here because I figured I can either get really mad at myself or I can play around with the audio and make it sound really, really bad, or I can just enjoy the humor of the situation. And so that's the song that we're discussing next week is Humor of the Situation.
All right.
So come back next week. Join us as we discuss I'm not going to give away my feelings on this song, but as we discuss Humor of the Situation. And thanks. That was fun.
Thanks, that was fun. Don't forget, no regrets, except maybe one.
To celebrate joining Pantheon Podcasts, Rock Camp, the podcast, the official podcast of Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, is giving away a guitar signed by Mike Portnoy of Dream Theater, Marty Friedman, formerly of Megadeth, and legendary shredder Zakk Wylde, plus our rockstar counselors like Vinny Appice, Monty Pittman, and more. To enter to win, simply follow, rate, and review our podcast on your preferred platform, and that's all you have to do. For more information, go to rockcamp.com/podcast.